How's it going, guys? Your favorite commissioner coming at you here live for another, well, not live actually, pre-recorded for another edition of the weekly recap. We're on week 6, or we are recapping week 6 of the League 10, which I believe would put us about halfway through the league. We have 13 regular season games in our league this year, so between weeks 6 and 7 would be the halfway point if my Babiji math serves me correctly. So, yeah, we're just going to dive right into the matchups here. And yeah, I guess let's just get into it. So the first matchup we have is between Perk and Mitch, and this one has a lot of matchups this week where it was not close. Perk comes out with the victory, 141 to 107, beating Mitch pretty handily. Both teams are now 4-2. Perk is in fourth place. Mitch is in third place. Both of them have a magic number of 6. Let's take a look at the matchup here super quick, dive through this. Perk overall had a pretty good week. He had just 2 players not score double-digit points. He had Matt Stafford with 26, Aaron Jones with 21, Noah Fant with 25, not bad for Noah Fant there. And, yeah, I mean, like I said, pretty good weeks out of the rest of his guys. Not much on his bench to talk about. Mitch, on the other hand, he had some players do okay, but honestly only one of them did really well, which is Darrell Henderson, 25 points. He had Joe Burrow on his bench, which, I mean, obviously, Mitch, you should know to start Joe Burrow over Tom Brady. If you would just look at Church's ranks, you would see that Tom Brady was ranked lower than Joe Burrow this week. That's why I started my guillotine league. But anyways, both teams 4-2 and in fourth and third place. Yeah, let's go on to the next matchup here. Next matchup we have is between Matt and Brandon. And honestly, one thing that I noticed this year, and I'm sure you all noticed it as well, is I feel like we're putting up a lot of points. Like, every team is putting up a lot of points this year. Well, not every team, most teams. Some are not doing so well. But my point is that we're all putting up a lot of points. So usually 130 week would be like, not bad. You would win most weeks. Honestly, I feel like this year 130 is less than middle of the road. I feel like you need that 140 plus to have a fair shot at winning the majority of your weeks. But anyways, into the matchup here, we have Matt versus Brandon. Brandon wins 130 to 116. Both teams again are 4-2. Although this time the standings are a little more spread out than that last matchup. Matt is second, Brandon is fifth. Both teams have a magic number of 6 as well. Take a look at the matchup here. We'll start with Matt. He had 25 points from Patty Mahomes. And that's about it. He had a lot of players score double digits on his bench. I mean, there's that. But, yeah, I mean, honestly, there's really not much to say. When you score 116 points, there's really not a whole lot to review. Brandon, on the other point, we had Darrell Williams get him 24 points. That was about it. Yeah, that really was about it. He had 2 players get under double-digit points. So like I said, honestly, weeks like this are kind of, I feel like this year are just not really a whole lot worth talking about. Yeah, I don't know. And I guess I should mention too, and not only talking about points, but I should also mention that Kareem Hunt is on the IR for Matt, so he will have to be starting. Well, he's got Damian Harris on his bench. I mean, that's actually not a bad running back. He did pretty good this week. Actually, I had to start him in another league. But I'm not Nate. I'm not going to talk about my other leagues. Moving on to the next matchup. And speaking of Nate, and I will admit, I almost had to give this matchup the matchup of the week, but it just got edged out. Nate versus Mike. And this has to be one of the worst beats. I don't know if it's league, like, in all 10 years, but it's got to be really damn close. Mike puts up 167 points and loses by 25? Whatever that math is. 193 to 167. Mike puts up a hell of a week. I mean, I want to say going into this week, that had to be a top 10 score, for all of us. But unfortunately, it was not enough for Mike, looking at the matchup here, he had Dak Prescott get him 28 points, Cooper Kupp get him 34, Joe Mixon 26, Dalvin Cook 22, Mike Gesicki 20. I mean, he had Cole Beasley on his bench who had 22. I mean, just ridiculous. It's insane. 167 points and you lose. I mean, that sucks. And as you can probably tell, we're going to be talking a lot about Nate's guys here. Before I go any further, Nate is the only 5-1 team in our league. He is in first place. Mike is now 2-4 and in seventh place. Nate's magic number is 5. Mike's is 8. And actually, since Mike is in seventh place, that 4 losses is half of the equation that we use for calculating that magic number. Kyler Murray for Nate, 26 points. Adam Thielen, 30 points. CeeDee Lamb, 36 points. Derrick Henry, 36 points. Antonio Brown, 24 points. He had 30 points out of Leo Fournette sitting on his bench. I mean, that's insane. 192 points. That's ridiculous. It wasn't it's not the league high. I think Ben had 224 in like week 2 or something. But I was thinking about this, and I'm not saying the only reason Nate is winning is because of Derrick Henry, but I looked it up, and Derrick Henry on the year has 170 points. That's the most out of any fantasy player so far this year. He's beating out the next 3 players behind him. Players 2, 3, and 4 are all quarterbacks. Mahomes, Allen, and Brady. And Mahomes is second with 161, Allen 159, Brady 155. So he is beating 3 of the best quarterbacks in fantasy this year by a fair amount. I mean, honestly, 9 points is, when you consider all things, I would say that's a healthy gap. Again, not saying he is only winning because of that. I mean, he also has Kyler Murray. I mean, I'm just looking at the top 10 fantasy scorers here. He has 2 of them. He has Derrick Henry and Kyler Murray. There's only one other team who has more than 1 fantasy player in the top 10. There is one more team that has 2 fantasy players in the top 10, and I won't say who that player is, but they have 1 win on the year. Anyways, all that aside, almost got the weekly matchup. Mike, unfortunately, bad beat, but it is what it is. You're the first team out of playoffs if they started today, which they don't. Next matchup, we have Nick and Ben. And Ben, some sort of a fire got lit under his ass because he was not doing well the first handful of weeks of the season. Now he scored 162 points, which, I've seen people lose with more than that. But he almost beat Nick by double, you could have doubled Nick's score. Nick would have won, but just barely. Both teams 2 and 4. Ben is in 6. Nick is in 8. Both teams have a magic number of 8 as well. Let's take a look at the matchup here. Stephon Diggs, 24 points. He had Jonathan Taylor, 29 points. Jalen Waddle, 29 points. I mean, obviously everybody was pining to have Jalen Waddle on their team so they could start him this week. Must be a London thing or something. Nick, on the other hand, he had 88 points. 26 of them came from Jalen Hurts. His defense literally got him negative 2 points. So there's that. Nick had Aaron Rodgers and Cortland Sutton on his bench. But yeah, a lot of points to not a lot of points is what it is. Congratulations, Ben, on your second victory of the year. And the matchup of the week goes to myself and Corey. Obviously the guys battling for last place in the league, it has to go to the matchup of the week. I finally got my first victory. Only took me 6 weeks, but finally got one. Got 176 points too. Ended up scoring the second most amount of points in the league this week. So, like I said last week, my team should not be 5-1 like Nate's, but it should not be 1-5 either. I beat Corey by 86 points. Oh, come on. Let's go. Corey and I are 9th and 10th place respectively. Corey has a magic number of 8. I have a magic number of 9, considering I just got my first win. Taking a look at the matchup, I had all of my players that I started go for double-digit points, which is really good. I had Josh Allen, 30 points. Tyreek Hill, 23 points. Najee Harris, 25 points. Marvin Jones Jr., 23 points. My defense almost got 20 points. 177 points, whatever. Of course, my player's going to do well. It's what happens when you draft an optimal team like I do. On the opposite side of the matchup, we got Corey, who had DeAndre Hopkins with 21 points, and that was honestly all that's worth mentioning. He had Kenyon Drake on his bench with 21 points. But yeah, so that is where we're at with that. So 176 points for me puts me, I think, in 6th overall in points. But of course, I still have, even with Corey only putting up a 90 spot against me, I still have, by a fair amount, the most points scored against me. And sorry, I also forgot to mention too, Nick with the weekly low score. So honestly, that's the only reason Ben won, not because he scored 162 points, but because Nick scored 88 points, and Nick is our second repeat offender on the weekly low score. I believe, who was it last week? Was it Mike? Mike was this first repeat offender, so Nick is the second repeat offender. So through 6 weeks, we have 4 guys who've gotten the weekly low score. So congratulations to you guys and chipping in on that $5 bet. So anyways, as always, we go try to keep it under 10 minutes and failed at that. So we'll wrap it up. Good luck next week on your matchups. Yeah, we'll see you next Tuesday.